Record. Hello and happy Monday, everybody. Welcome back to the For the Doers podcast. I am Sayda, your host, and I am here today with the now very popular Janis.
Come on.
You're amazing. I've had so much great feedback about how people love to hear you on these conversations. So I'm so happy to have you. And I'm always happy to talk to you. You're one of the people that I always just, when your name comes on my text messages, I'm like, yay!
That means a lot to me. You know what means a lot too is when I call and you pick up the phone, because you know how very often you call and you're like, they'll leave a message or they'll text me if it's important.
Yeah, no, I will pick up for. Not that I wouldn't pick up for other people, but you know. But I really needed you today. You know, it is the For the Doers podcast, and I am definitely a doer. I was telling Janis that I had a really tough morning today, and actually I've had, you know, over the last week and a half has been really hard for me because I deal with clinical depression. And sometimes it's really difficult. I had a couple of days last week where I just didn't feel great about myself and was honestly just wondering why. You know, what's the point? What is the point of anything and everything? And didn't get super down when the clouds came around, but enough. And I'm lucky enough to have people around me that understand what's happening to me sometimes and how I'm feeling in general, because no one really feels it but you. And yesterday, I normally don't read before bed, but I did. I think I was on Twitter or something, which is terrible to do before bed. Will not do that again. Well, Twitter, like I don't know if it's an excuse, but Twitter, I love some of the comedy that I see on Twitter. I mean, there are some hilarious people on Twitter. So funny. And I was reading somebody specific, and then I saw this story about this lady. I don't want to say her name wrong. It's not Chesley Christ. Chesley Christ. I didn't know anything about her before. She now was a personality, I guess, someone on Extra. What do you call the people who are interviewing people? I guess she was like a host. There's a different name, but whatever. So she was a host on Extra, and she was also Miss America or Miss USA 2019, also an attorney. And she committed suicide. She posted on Instagram and, you know, then went and jumped out a window. And I read it last night and I was like, I don't even know who this girl is, but I listened to her in a couple of clips that she did about dealing with microaggressions. And, you know, she was Black, so she was talking about some of her struggles being an attorney and maybe not being accepted sometimes. And I was just, my heart sank. And then when I got up this morning, I couldn't stop bawling because of all of the things that I heard her say, and I just identified with so many things that she said, you know, about just trying to do everything, and the pressure, and feeling, you know, low about it. And I just felt it. I felt it. I was just like, I have been to that place. I have been to that dark space where you feel completely worthless. And like, why am I here? What impact? Like, why? Like, why would anybody listen to me? You know, that awful voice. And with depression, it's real. People that don't go through it don't understand. It's not like you want to feel bad or you just have to like brush it off. It literally feels like it's bringing you down, and the darkness will never go away, and it's hopeless. Like, I have been to that place where she was, and someone who seemingly has everything killed themselves. And it happens. I mean, look at all of the famous people over the last few years. Anthony Bourdain, who I loved, you know, Kate Spade was another shocker. Of course, Robin Williams. But, you know, people who are younger and younger. I mean, this lady was 30 years old. Regina King's son was 25, and that happened in the last couple of weeks. The reason I'm, you know, obviously this is affecting me, but I don't want it to just be about me. Ever since I really acknowledged that I was dealing with depression, because you have to, and got help, you know, and all of that, as soon as I started crawling up out of the hole, I don't want to say goal, but it's like, I feel like I have to help anyone else who feels like that, because I don't know if I told you, like, I was so lucky. My boss at the time, when I had a breakdown, was so amazing. I mean, this man, I mean, he understood because he had been through it. And that's where I feel so grateful for the people around me, because I'm lucky. Not everybody has that. And if I can be that for just one person who says, oh my God, I can't believe somebody else is going through that. That's what I want to be. You know, normalizing having these conversations about struggling. And, you know, you always bring in so much structure and great insights at how you look at different situations. That's why I really need you. And I also need your positivity and the fact that I know that you will listen to me. And I think that that's what a lot of people need, especially now, because a lot of us are going through burnout and all the things that are happening around us. It's like, what else? But part of what you and I were speaking about earlier was, you know, how do you talk to people who are struggling? And I mean, I'll let you speak to what you said earlier, but it's like, it has to be, I don't know, I'm going to let you speak to, you know, how do you approach somebody who's struggling? And maybe you don't even know that they're struggling.
Yeah, I think so too. It's like, it's never really going to be a comfortable conversation. It's never going to be an easy conversation. I feel like depending on who the individual is, there could be a lot of like shame or disappointment in themselves. There's a lot, like, we're our own worst critics sometimes, where
Mhm.
it's very easy to be like, there's something wrong with me, or, I should be able to pull myself out of this, or who knows, right? There's like 1,000
Mhm.
different storylines.
Yeah.
Um, but I think I love, and I'm thankful and I'm honored that you're like, I'll call you if I need to move out of that space
Mhm.
or that headspace. And I mean, listen, if you have one person that you can call on, you're lucky.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have multiple though. Like, you were like, okay, if I'm ever in a crap situation, you said it earlier too. You're like, your husband will be like, hey, what's going on?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
My partner is exactly the same way. He'll be like, what's going on? And I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
fine. He's like, no, you're not. Like, it's the people who know you, right, that'll really
Yeah.
push you to be honest and be like, no, be honest with me. Or like, you'll always say, like, you're telling stories, like, you're not. And it's true.
Mm.
Sometimes it's like, it's easier to just say I'm fine, or it's okay, or you tell these stories that like you are fine, when there's underlying things that
Mhm.
are bugging you, or there's underlying things that you're sad about. And I think feeling all those emotions should be normalized. Like, it's, who's to say, like, you wake up and you feel like you're in a poopy mood, and it's like, well, how can I kind of move out of this? Who can I talk to? Like, I feel like there's like a small list of things where it's like, okay, if I don't feel right, like, can I go on a walk? Can I call somebody who's going to like make you laugh, or be there to listen, or,
Mhm.
you know, you're excited to hear their stories. Like, I feel doing, like, it's almost like little self-care things where
Yeah.
it's, how do you inch yourself out of that space? Because it doesn't
Yeah.
happen. It's like, it's hard. How do you tell somebody like, oh, snap out of it? You're like, "Hmm."
And
And
that's
then
what
that, it
people say a
doesn't,
lot.
yeah,
Yeah, people
pull it
say that a
together,
lot.
you know?
Yeah, pull it
Hmm.
together, snap out of it. You're just in a funk. And it's like, no, it actually doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and you can't fix people. I think, it's all about, again, looking at yourself and being like, I can't keep doing this, and really being honest with yourself. But that's hard too. It's hard to get to that space, especially if you are a doer.
Yeah.
And all the things, last week I think I felt overwhelmed because I want to do all the things, and I always fall into the oh my god, I'm doing so many different things. And actually, and it wasn't even that, because I'm not really working right now. I'm not working a regular job right now, so I'm really doing a lot of the things that I love to do. But the pressure that I put on myself to get things done is part of it, a big part of it, because I want to achieve, I want to get there. But that also makes me sometimes feel not enough, just not enough, if I haven't gotten to where I want to go. And, you forget all of the great things that you did before. You're just thinking, right now, I didn't do this, and it's not going to get done, and I suck. Um, and when you have friends, and I love what you said earlier, that sometimes, we're with our friends and we don't even realize. I mean, that's what people said about this lady that left the world yesterday on her own. um I mean, I look at her and I'm like, what? She was gorgeous. But what does that mean? That means nothing if you're dealing with things inside. Um, but with friends, it's like, what can you do? That's a question that I hear a lot. Is like, what can I do? Um,
Well, I think you always do. I like, for me at least, like you do such a great job of allowing somebody to be honest. Because I feel like honesty is like really, it's, we always joke, right? Because it's how honest do you want me to be? Like
yeah,
sometimes people will be like, well, can I be completely honest with you? And you're like, I know I'm not gonna like whatever's gonna come out of your mouth next. Cause it's like,
yeah.
at what point do we want people to be honest? But
Hmm.
I think I think being able to cultivate that part of a relationship where you can say, hey, I have to be honest with you, or can I be honest with you? And kind of setting up that foundational environment of
Mm,
good, bad, ugly. This is what I'm feeling. This is, I really, I don't want to internalize this anymore. Like, can you help me through
mm.
this? Or can like, can I just share that? I don't even need you to help me through it. I just want to be able to get it out so it's not
Yes,
living inside and like festering.
love that. I love that because I think, again, I can only speak to my own experience with depression, especially, is like the people that helped me the most were just the ones that heard me, just heard what I was saying, acknowledged it. You can give advice all day long, but it doesn't necessarily work for other people. um it's about empowering people to just really get to know themselves and how they operate and get help based on what they know about themselves and what's happening. Because I know with me, it got super far with depression, enough to get to a breakdown because I didn't do anything about it. I didn't want to talk about it. I needed everybody to think I was strong all the time. I need everybody to think I got it together. I'm cool. I got it down. And then one day you just break. And that's I think the most important thing, is like, no, you need help. And I don't know, I think my whole thing is just normalizing the conversation, because it is so much more prevalent than we want to admit. um and I talk to people who are going through similar things, and it's like, oh my god, I don't want to be a zombie and get on um medication and all that. Well, you know what, sometimes you might have to, like, you just need to get help and get things under control for yourself. And I think that that's the best advice that you can give anyone who's going through depression and anxiety. And again, speaking from the person who definitely goes through those things, it's just, wow, listen and understand. That's literally all I want, is to feel like you brought up my husband. I'm so grateful for him because he hears me, and he doesn't say, you got to do this, you got to do that. He just listens. And hey, if it's something he's been through, then he says, hey, I've done this and this and this, or so and so did this. But it's just like, wow, when you feel heard and understood and not judged. We always talk about that.
Well, it's the basis of so many things, right? I feel like professionally, personally, like there's always that judgment factor. There's always that space of people are going to pass their opinion off on you, where it's okay if it's going to happen. We do it. I do it probably more often than I should. I know I
Mm.
do. Not probably. I know I do. I'm trying to be better about it, but I'll be honest with you. But I think being in that space of like worrying what other people think of you, or like being
Mm.
so worried about the optics and like
Yeah.
how things are. I think we talked about it too, where it's social media and A
Ooh.
lot of great social media is amazing. Trust, like you can do so many things. You can DIY your entire house. Like trust,
Mhm.
like there's amazing things, but there's also the perception that, or the perceived perception, like you're gonna have to put out this outward facing facade of what you think will get you the most likes, or the like it'll be the most
Right.
accepted, because dealing with real life stuff, be it depression, be it anxiety, being it like not the beautiful things, like
Mhm.
beautiful things can come out of it, but like when you're in it, it feels dark and cold and kind of ugly. How do you shine a light on that and normalize it when it's like, whoa, nobody really wants to talk about that, that's not fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
um and it's like, yeah, but what if coming out on the other end is what you need, is to have the conversation and feel so much lighter and better after it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Um, and I think it's, I just think it's so important to have the right people around you, you
Yeah.
know. Um,
Because no
and
matter what, they will be there if you're honest, good, bad, and ugly. Like they're gonna be there.
yeah,
And if they're not, that's okay too, because you know what? It gives you that opportunity to really lean into the people who are.
yes, yes. And social media is, whew, that's like a whole different powder keg right there, because it is so useful, um, but it's also so hurtful. It can be so hurtful. And looking again at some people who are famous and they struggle, and I can't even imagine how, to go, you were saying that earlier, going through all the things that we go through in a spotlight. Wow. Wow. Having kids right now and navigating this, to all of you parents who are doing that right now,
I
I
know we
salute
are.
you, because I have to get, I mean, I was speaking to somebody the other day who, for self-care, just stopped getting on Instagram even, um, because she noticed it was changing her, attitude, or was affecting her emotions adversely. I mean, I have friends and family on Facebook. I cannot do it. It really brings me down. This is the first time I've said that to anybody legitimately, but it's like, it brings you down. Nobody, okay, I'm going to take that back. I won't say nobody, but it's like, are we thinking of how what we say impacts other people adversely, and for what? Because if you were pretty, if you're if you're posting, things that are political or whatever, whose mind are you changing? Are you changing anybody's mind? I don't know. You're speaking to your own crowd, or you're pissing somebody else off. And for who? Is that for you? I don't know. I don't get it. And I don't want to participate. I mean, I love, you know, keeping up with people, with friends from years ago, and all those good things, and maybe some of the bullies, so they can see how amazing I look. Um, I'm just kidding.
Oh, like 10% kidding.
um, but it's so toxic. It's just, it's really toxic to just hear things that are just meant to be mean or divisive. Um, and for my self-care, I rarely go on Facebook. I'll answer messages from people who I like and love and catch up every once in a while, but I don't need to know. That's so much toxicity that we're dealing with social media.
Well, I think it's
Um,
incredible because without saying it, you really do protect your peace and you protect your vibration, where it's like
yes.
I'm at this level where that's really not something I want to be exposed to, nor do I want to participate in it. So thank you.
Hmm.
I will leave that there. And I think that's huge because so much of, keeping, or for me at least, like so much of like being able to protect my peace and keep keeping a high vibe life, or like, staying positive or being in a good headspace is knowing kind of what sets you off and
Yeah.
not going down that path. Like, hey,
Yes.
I already know that like X, Y, and Z is going to be triggering for me, or I'm going to not feel great about this. So let's not rub salt in wounds and like feel
Hmm.
all the things. But like you
Hmm.
say, like you avoid it, or, or you reach out to somebody who makes you feel better, or you
Right.
surround yourself with the people who, like we said it before, we really invest in the people that we love and we care about, because we're only given so much time. And it's like, why not spend it with the people who love and nurture us in that way? Because we
Hmm.
are then able to give that out to other people as well.
Yes, I love that.
So
Um, I love that. Because it's having, if you go through any type of grief or loss, it can change you, um in positive ways or negative ways.
yeah,
I feel like the grief that I've gone through over the years has helped me in a positive way because, again, self-care, my tolerance is low for, verbal abuse, selfishness. And it's not about just having people around you. It's about feeling comfortable and feeling like you can be yourself. No fear. I can make mistakes. Wow. It's not a big deal if I make a mistake. I don't get canceled, which is just crazy to me, how we all make mistakes in life. We all do. But not forgiving people for a mistake and harping on it, please turn that around and look at yourself in the mirror. Wow. um and that's something that I think the majority of us are not down with, the whole, I'm not going to go into cancel culture or anything, but it is part of our culture right now, to just judge people so much on mistakes that they have made. And wow, how do you feel inside if you're okay with judging people like that, on a personal level?
I always do
It's
this thing. I've been trying to, it's not an easy practice, but I've been
mhm,
trying to, if I ever catch myself being like, I get this like fluttering heat inside my chest when I like something really bothers me, or there's
yes,
something, and usually, it's usually people closest to me. So it's
of
sometimes majority
course.
it's family.
It is.
It's family sometimes. Um, but I'm like, I pause and I'm like, for a couple of minutes, I'm like, what is it about the situation or what's happening
Hmm.
that I'm like insecure about? That's like, it's what's the thing about me? Like there has to be
Hmm.
a root in there somewhere that
Yes.
is triggering me, because I'm making it personal. It has nothing to do
Hmm.
with me. And I'm like, I get
Yep.
this thing and it's like, okay, why are you internalizing it? How did this become my thing? Why are you so upset about it? Because I do
Ooh.
feel like when for me, when my emotions run hot and high, I'm like,
Hmm.
there's something there. Like for me
Yes.
personally, there's some deep shit there you got to work through, because you wouldn't have that reaction if you didn't have underlying stuff you needed to
Oh,
like.
absolutely. We
So I'm like,
project.
okay, pause. Let's pause before we project. Let's pause.
We project, girl.
100%, 100%. And I think that's why it's so easy to point fingers or to see things outwards without turning it back in, because it's easier. It's easier to
Yeah.
be like, oh, I would never do that. That
Yeah.
would never be something I would do. I had a girlfriend that used to say that, like, that's cool that you do that. I would never do that. And I was like,
Wow.
gosh, that's
Passive
okay.
aggressive.
Okay. Like, just tell me that you would never do the shit that I just did because you're above it, or you have, and
Right.
it's like, okay, that's cool. And like feeling like why that triggers, and it's like, yeah, 100%. It's like the underlying personal stuff, if that makes sense.
No, but we all project that way. And if something really is getting to you, I was thinking about that the other day, and I brought up the bully thing because no one would ever think that I was bullied. I was bullied. We'll have a whole different show about that. And it'll be a show. Yeah, I didn't like school very much because I was different, Dominican in LA in the, 70s and 80s. There weren't that many of us, and we were bullied. I was definitely bullied. And I think I now, after doing a lot of work on myself, as soon as I see somebody being treated unfairly, I go in. Like, I am like, you are not going to be bullying people. I'm not saying that, but that's what I'm projecting because I feel like someone was treated badly. And it's usually not even about me because I can defend myself incredibly well now against pretty much anybody. But if I see that somebody else is not being treated properly and nothing's being done, I go crazy. I go nuts. But I also have to figure out how to just, because, and now we really see, all kinds of stuff goes on in the world that you cannot control. So, that's why I always say my goal is work on what you can control, because that's literally all you have. You can't, I wish I was a vampire and I could fly around and, drink the blood of people I don't like and things like that. We were talking about Anne Rice.
That's
earlier.
A whole nother episode.
That's a whole other episode. Janis and I were talking about, or I was telling her how I was obsessed with Anne Rice back in the day. I think it was in my 20s. And I was like, I would just go kill all the bad people as a vampire.
My God, that's the disclaimer though, as a vampire, as like in a
as
fictional
a
world, everybody, in a fictional world. I do have a question though, I guess, to like open it up to anybody who's listening is, what do you do specifically to kind of protect your peace or protect your energy? Or what do you do when you're kind of in a low spot? Like, do you reach out to people? Do you kind of turn inwards and become a little bit of a hermit? Like, I guess I'm curious, because there's so much more to talk about. Like, keep this conversation going of like, how do you think like normalizing these conversations should go? Like anything, like it's really just kind of like an open book of questions. Like, I'm so curious to know how other people feel about those.
This is one of the things that we'll talk about moving forward, because, this comes with being a doer. I'm not saying depression comes with being a doer, but pressure comes with being a doer. The people who get things done, the people who accomplish things, and the bigger the things are, the bigger the pressure is going to be. And yeah, we need to just continue that conversation, because to me, this is a forum of sharing and just having that conversation. If I can just be one person, and you are yet another person who's helping normalize these conversations about how you protect your peace, how do you, motivate yourself, which is another thing. When you're strong, everybody likes to put all the things on you, and
it's like carrying a really big purse. Your friends are like, or your
yes,
friends or your
yes.
family are like,
Can you carry
there's
my
room
phone?
in there. Can you hold this for me? Just one more thing. Can you put this in there? You're like, there is a weight
Yes.
limit.
Yes, there's a weight limit.
There is a weight limit.
There's a weight limit. And yes, I want to continue this conversation with all of our future friends. We have such exciting conversations coming up. But I don't know, I think we're starting small, and just having this. I hope that somebody hears this little conversation and says, you know what, wow, some part of this conversation strikes this little chord in someone, so that they know that they're not alone. You're not the only one who feels this way. There's a lot of us, who want to do our best, and we feel the pressure, and we still keep going, and we don't do things about it. But we're all becoming more aware now, I think, about self-care. I mean, it's becoming a bit trite, but to talk about self-care, but it's real. It shouldn't be a special thing. It should just be what it is, and as a doer, all the things I'm doing, all the things right now. I, took time off from working because I was full. I was full. If I had continued, I would have another and probably a bigger breakdown. With the stress. And that's what it's all about, is doing what's best for you. What I'm doing is not best for someone else, but these conversations, I hope, help people to really look at themselves, because you can say what you want, which is amazing advice. I can give great advice, but everyone really has to just look at themselves and say, what do I need? Like, it's about me. I'm the only one living this life, say that to yourself, please. Everybody, anybody, it's your life. And yes, people can depend on you, but it's you. No one is going to be able to help you the way you can. So on that note, I want to say thank you so much to Janis. I appreciate you so much for appreciating me.
I do. I love this. I love our talks, and it's just such a great safe space to like be ourselves and have, sometimes silly, sometimes very serious conversations.
Yeah.
And I love that. And I think that's what life is all about. It's the balance between the serious and the play.
Yes. Yes.
And sometimes there's no balance, and that's okay too. But it's just being able to have the space to talk about it.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I'll leave everyone saying thank you so much for listening. If you need help, please, I will leave a number for Suicide Hotline. Reach out to somebody who you can just express yourself to, and minimum, talk to your doctor. Sometimes that is the first step. People trust doctors for the most part with, their health, and your brain is part of that. That is also part of self-care. is going to a medical professional and saying, hey, this is happening to me. And for me, that was the best help I could get, just my advice. But just, if you can reach out to anybody, if we know each other, reach out to me, because this is why I'm doing this, so that we continue this conversation about, keeping our minds safe, and growing from that, and really protecting ourselves. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's all about you. Take care of yourself first. Thank you so much. I hope you have an amazing week, and I can't wait to see you again next week. Bye, everybody.